right, welcome to Talkin Investing. I'm Tom, and as always, this is not financial advice. Today, I want to talk about Marathon Digital Holdings, stock ticker MARA or MARA. MARA put out a huge press release today. In fact, a $250 million press release today. So I want to go through that, but I also want to give a little history because Marathon's been very active lately, and they also put out their monthly operational report. So we're going to try and get through a lot of stuff, but mostly Marathon has made a big shift fundamentally in their HODL strategy, and so I want to go through that, and a lot of what we're going to talk about is going to relate to that. We're also going to take a look at the stock price and the chart. The market did not like this press release. Marathon was the underperformer of the day. It was down over 11% yesterday on Monday when they put this press release out. So that reaction actually surprised me quite a bit. So let me know in the comments what you guys thought and what your expectation was. But I want to take you through what they did and what's going on with Marathon. So of course, we talk about Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners all the time on this channel. If that is content that you're interested in, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, if you could do the channel a great big favor and smash the like button, it really does help out a lot. Okay, so let's get right to it. Let's talk about Marathon. So for starters, yesterday, Marathon closed at $15.11. That was down over 11%. And again, it was a little bit of a red day yesterday. Everything was red, but this was much worse than average. So the market did not like this press release. I'm going to start out with the press release they just put out, but there's a bunch of other stuff I want to go through. And there were several other press releases over the previous several weeks leading up to this. So I want to go through those as well. Okay, here it is. August 12th. Marathon Digital Holdings announces proposed private offering of $250 million of convertible senior notes. So this is not an at-the-market offering. This is not equity. This is convertible notes. So this is debt, and this is $250 million. Now, I'll start out by scrolling down a little bit, and you'll see in here they say MARA intends to use the proceeds from the sale of this note to acquire additional Bitcoin and for general corporate purposes. So of course, they're going to say for general corporate purposes as well. All these press releases always say that, but essentially, it's pretty crystal clear to me that they intend to go buy a lot more Bitcoin. So this is a new trend for Marathon. We're going to go through their monthly operational report as well. Marathon mines an incredible amount of Bitcoin, more so than any other publicly traded company. But now, on top of that, they want even more Bitcoin. So this is part of a strategy that they announced last month. And I think this is a gigantic leap past what I thought they were going to do. So they were already getting very aggressive. Now to come out and basically look for another $250 million to go buy more Bitcoin. Marathon is truly all in on Bitcoin at this point. Just as far as their HODL strategy at this point, they are the most bullish on Bitcoin out of any of the Bitcoin miners. We're also going to take a look at the monthly operational report, and you're going to see just how many Bitcoin they're mining and just how many Bitcoin they're HODLing. Okay, so let's just take this and jump back in time just a few weeks. So this is $250 million. Now, obviously, they haven't done this yet, but once they announce this, it's pretty imminent. So this will probably happen in the next week or so. And then I think we'll probably see an announcement shortly thereafter that they bought a bunch of Bitcoin. They may not go immediately spend all $250 million of this, but I do think we'll see an announcement sometime over the next few weeks that this is done and they have bought a bunch more Bitcoin. Obviously, that's speculation. We won't know that unless and until it happens, but those are my thoughts on the matter. Again, drop in the comments below if you agree or disagree with that. Okay, so if I just go back a few weeks, here's a press release they put out on July 25th. MARA purchases $100 million of Bitcoin. So they didn't go raise money to do this. They used their money that they had, but they took $100 million and went and bought Bitcoin. This allowed them to get over 20,000 Bitcoin at the time. So you'll see MARA updates treasury policy to HODL all Bitcoin. Current Bitcoin holdings surpass 20,000 Bitcoin. So this was a big deal. This came out July 25th, so this was before the July monthly operational update. So that's what I want to look at next to see what they did in the month of July. And if you want to learn more about this, I did do a video a few weeks, a deep dive into this press release right here, but essentially this was a big shift in their strategy. They announced in here that they are now intending on HODLing 100% of the Bitcoin that they mine, and in addition to that, they plan on buying Bitcoin on top of that. So they're switching to basically what I'm calling a 100% plus HODL strategy, which is more so than all the other Bitcoin miners. I will tell you, there were a few Bitcoin miners in the month of July that hodled somewhere between 99 and 100% of the Bitcoin that they mined. Marathon did, Riot did as well. Riot hodled 100% of the Bitcoin they mined, and CleanSpark, I believe, hodled 99% of the Bitcoin that they mined. Several other Bitcoin miners are hodling a portion of their Bitcoin, but you can see there are a few, and those really are the three largest Bitcoin miners, both by market cap and exahash and by number of Bitcoin mined. Having said that, Core Scientific does mine a lot of Bitcoin as well. However, coming out of Chapter 11, they're not really in a position to hodl Bitcoin. Okay, so this was July 25th. Fast forward again just a little bit to August 6th. Mara announces Bitcoin production and mining operations update for July 2024. So this is their July operational update. Okay, you'll see Bitcoin production of 692 Bitcoin, a 17% increase month over month. So that is a big increase month over month. I think that was the third largest out of any of the Bitcoin miners. And 692, we're going to take a look at a chart. That was the most Bitcoin any of the publicly traded Bitcoin miners mined in July, and it was not even close. So then they go on to say increase their Bitcoin holdings to 20,818 Bitcoin, total cash in Bitcoin of $1.6 billion as of July 31st. So that's one of the other things about this company. Obviously, they have a very strong balance sheet. They have an extreme amount of liquidity, a lot of which is tied up in their Bitcoin, but they do have another couple $100 million in cash beyond that. So this 692 Bitcoin, they hodled all of those Bitcoin, plus they bought about 1,590 Bitcoin past that. So they did give us that announcement that they were going to spend $100 million and buy Bitcoin. So you can see they bought $100 million worth of Bitcoin in July. They hodled the 692 Bitcoin that they mined in July, and now we're here early in August, and they're announcing they're going to raise $250 million to go mine more Bitcoin. Now, I think it's worth saying at this point, Marathon, with over 20,000 Bitcoin, has the second most amount of Bitcoin on their balance sheet of any publicly traded company in the world. So that's not just Bitcoin mining companies, that's any company in the world. The only company that has more Bitcoin on their balance sheet, self-owned Bitcoin, is MicroStrategy. And of course, they have significantly more. They have well over 200,000 Bitcoin. But I bring up MicroStrategy because this move that Marathon just did is very much out of the playbook from MicroStrategy. This is how MicroStrategy and MicroSailor ended up getting over 200,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet. It was through issuing convertible debt in large part, due out, 5, 6, 7, 8 years into the future. And that's what Marathon is doing. This debt is actually due in 2031. There are some provisions in here that look like it may get paid off or converted a few years earlier than that, but this is way out in the distance. If I go back to this press release that they put out yesterday, it says Mara also expects to grant the initial purchases of the note an option to purchase within a 13-day period, beginning on and including the date on which the notes are first issued, up to an additional $37.5 million aggregate principal amount of the note. So that would make this a $287.5 million offering, and that is highly likely that that's where this will end up. In the case of MicroStrategy, most of the time that they did this, the demand was so high, they actually went even far beyond that. So I'm not saying Marathon's going to do that, but it's likely this 250 is at least going to turn into $287.5 million. So that will afford them quite a bit of Bitcoin based on, the price of Bitcoin and how quickly they get to purchasing it. Okay, just a couple of charts I want to show you really quickly that I think are also important to tie into this whole picture. Number one, going back to the July monthly operational report. In gold at the top of this list, you're going to see Marathon mined 692 Bitcoin. That was, as they said, a 17% improvement month over month. So this was by far the most Bitcoin out of all the Bitcoin miners. We, on this channel, look at the top 12 Bitcoin miners. So you see Marathon mined 692, and the next closest was CleanSpark at 494. And CleanSpark had a very good month, up 11%. That still left them almost 200 Bitcoin less than Marathon, and then you can see it drops off from there. The other thing worth noting is you're going to see Marathon at the end of the month had 31.8 exahash up and available. They mine the most Bitcoin out of any publicly traded Bitcoin mining company. They have the most exahash. In addition to that, they have by far the biggest total position. So I just want to go to a chart real quick and look at that. Okay, this is as of the end of July with all the operational updates. days, these are the companies that are hodling Bitcoin. So you're going to see out of the 12 Bitcoin mining companies that we follow, you'll see there's several that aren't even hodling Bitcoin at all. They don't report any hodl position. But of those that do hodl, you're going to see Marathon at the end of July at 20,818. The next closest company is less than half that, which is Riot at 9,704. It's worth noting that Riot will probably pass 10,000 Bitcoin in their next monthly operational update, which is August. That will put them into the top 5 of all companies in the world that hold Bitcoin. 5 of the top 10 companies in the world that hold Bitcoin are Bitcoin miners, but you're going to see Marathon is far and away more than double the next closest. And again, not only are they the number 1 out of the Bitcoin miners, they're the number 2 publicly traded company that holds Bitcoin out of all companies in the world. So that may change as Bitcoin is adopted over the next several years, but Marathon is on pace to add a significant amount of Bitcoin. With the 250 or maybe $287.5 million, that could be another 4,000 or 5,000 Bitcoin. And by the end of the year, it looks to me like they'll be mining, potentially another 1,000 Bitcoin a month. So they could get to 30 or 40,000 Bitcoin on their balance sheet sometime, by the end of this bull market in the next year and a half. So we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, none of that's happened yet, so only time will tell. So with all that said, taking a look at the chart, you're going to see Marathon's stock is actually not behaving well at all. I did a video a few weeks ago, and Marathon was trading. It was bouncing right off of this green line. This was kind of an ascending line of support. It was just about ready to break that as we made our last video. So I did talk in that video about the fact that I had a red line down here at $13.75, and I thought it was entirely possible we could go down and test that line. And you'll see on Monday, last Monday, when we did have the flash crash of Bitcoin where it went under 50,000, Marathon went down to $13.66. So it basically very, very close to exactly retested this line of support. This did hold. We are off of that line, but you can see we did break this other line of support. So we are trading very low right now. If I go from their high back at the end of February, Marathon's down over 55% off of their high from February. But if we go even much closer than that, if we go back to just July 17th, less than 1 month ago, Marathon's down almost 45% off of what their stock price was just 1 month ago. So while Bitcoin continues to go sideways, and yes, we are at a little bit of the lower end of its range, a lot of the Bitcoin mining companies have been getting beaten up. Marathon is no exception. They're very near their lows of the year. They did just retest their lows of the year a few days ago. And of course, yesterday they were down 11% on the news that they were going to raise this money and go buy Bitcoin. So I was surprised that the market reacted that way. I was surprised there was a big sell-off for Marathon. This has been a strategy that's drastically increased MicroStrategy's market cap over the course of time. So the knee-jerk reaction to this was to the downside, but I do think there's a chance that potentially as the market absorbs this and digests this, this could end up being good news. Of course, that's not financial advice. None of this is ever financial advice. You guys need to do your own due diligence. And as you can see from looking at this chart that we're looking at, Marathon is a highly volatile stock, so please invest carefully. Be careful with your money. So that's it. That's what I got for you on Marathon and what they're doing. So if you made it this far, thanks so much for watching, and please consider subscribing to the channel and smashing the like button. Thanks again, and we will see you in the next video.